R5, open the shield. R5, open the shield. R5, open the shield.
What the fuck is Banner doing?
I think he left his wallet inside that Cheesecake Factory, and he's not really accepting the concept of closed doors right now.
Well, I mean, if he does get in while he's in there, can he grab me a slice?
Welcome in to the Bro 4 Squad podcast, where we are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and watching TV and movies. I am your host, the Mayor, Jeff Hornacek. This is our review of The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 8, Chapter 24, titled The Return, the season finale, possibly series finale of The Mandalorian, and we are here to review it, as always, using the 4 Bro 4 Squad criteria, which is the acting, the story, our favorite scene, and theories and questions going forward. I am joined, as is tradition, by the mad scientist Brian Banner and the American hero Nate Thurmond. Nate, we will toss it over to you first. Acting and cast, I guess since it's the finale episode of the season as well, anybody who stood out, maybe not even just in this episode, but good or bad for kind of the whole season now that we've seen the arc play itself out.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, for like the whole season, man, I think we've talked about this quite a bit. Maybe even last review, one of you guys pointed it out as well. But Bo-Katan like taking the steering wheel on this one. It was just awesome seeing her take over, really command that role. It was fantastic. I think that was probably the biggest acting point for me of the whole season. Everyone else was kind of doing their own thing. You had Karga, he was doing his own thing. Din doing his normal stuff. But Bo-Katan really stepping into the driver's seat. And then when we got Moff Gideon in the end, loved his role as well.
Yeah, it's weird because all 3 seasons of this show, I feel like this one introduced the least new characters. Like, I'm trying to think of someone who was new in the fray that played a substantial role in this season, aside from like either stunt casting or someone who just kind of showed up for an episode. And I'm really struggling to pick anyone out.
I don't think there was.
Yeah.
So, take it, Banner.
I was just going to say, I agree. Katie Sackhoff, I mean, she is Bo-Katan. She obviously voiced her in the animated series as well. So just super happy to see her be able to translate that into live action. I had no idea she had those kind of acting chops. I was very impressed, and she did a good job of growing the character and really having a change from where she was when we first met her to where she ended up at the end.
Yeah, she actually really surprised me. Like, I, to be honest, had only really heard her like voice work, and then I think she was in like what's the fucking show that Dwight Schrute loves, Battlestar Galactica. So I kind of like assumed in my head that she was like an actor who kind of would ham things up in a sci-fi series, but she was given a really heavy role here, and she did very well, I thought. Obviously, Giancarlo Esposito, always a standout. I do want to point out Simon Kassianidis, who plays Axe Woves, and we called him Ace Wolf last week, the entire time.
6 one ways, half a dozen another.
I'm not going to apologize. That was his name last week, and this week he changed it to Axe Woves. It just happens in the story. But he was awesome. Dude, I mean, he was really hardly in the series earlier because he was one of the people working in Bo-Katan's clan. But this guy has a lot of gravitas, and every scene he was in, I was like, I want more of that dude. And it wasn't just because his character was a badass. It was just like the way that he carried himself and sort of like this smug arrogance that wasn't really like rubbing me the wrong way. I was actually kind of like, dude, I would follow this guy into battle. Like, I'm kind of digging his vibe. So I was glad that he obviously played an important role because the multiple Mandalorian, I guess, sects have to have some tension before they come together, and he did an awesome job these last 2 episodes of that, I thought.
Yep, totally agreed. The last thing I will throw in, because I have this on my notes, love Moff Gideon's helmet voice.
Yes.
It got me going so bad. I loved it. I don't know what they did or how they contrived it, but whatever they did, they hit a sweet spot for me. And once he put that helmet on and started talking, I was like, yes, that is an evil voice right there. I love it.
And it could be very easy to be like, this is just Darth Vader light, kind of like how we felt about Kylo Ren, but no, not at all.
But it was different enough from Darth Vader to have its own unique spin on it. But I think that was the first time. I can't remember if last episode when he flew in last, if we heard it. But this episode this episode is when I first noticed it, when he put it on and started talking. It was choice.
Choice.
I don't even know. I haven't said that in years. I don't even know why I said that.
That's interesting. I'm not going to.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that.
I don't think I have either. Actually, years. Try ever.
That was weird.
One last thing, not necessarily acting specifically, because I'm aware that he's not real, but I thought we actually had some good character stuff with Grogu and Din in this. Even though at times it's just so hard not to laugh at what Grogu is doing, and like especially this one with him and IG-12. Basically, it's like he looks like Krag from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, there was one small moment at the very end whenever Din and him are walking into the bar, and he's like actually walking, and his feet are moving like 100 miles an hour, but he's moving like 2 miles an hour.
100 of his steps is like one of our steps.
That was a pretty light, low-key comical moment.
I've never really been like out on Grogu, but there has been times where I'm like, all right, we get it, he's fucking cute and funny, like keep going back to the well, but it's almost like a Family Guy joke where when they do it enough, I come back around. I'm like, God damn it, you're right. You're right.
Yep. That's funny.
All right, ready to move on to story.
Yeah.
All right. IMDb described the synopses for all these episodes this season have been incredible.
Stuff happens.
Yeah. Show took place. They say the Mandalorian and his allies confront their enemies. We pick back up in episode 7. Paz Vizsla just passed away. Din is captured, and Moff Gideon is basically dividing and conquering the Mandalorians on the planet of Mandalore with the Dark Troopers. And so I just wrote here, as far as the story, the battle for Mandalore and Gideon and his clones are revealed, which they're then destroyed. The dark saber is broken, and then Mando in the end sets off with Grogu freelancing for the New Republic. And we can talk, I guess, either in story or in theories and questions on what that will set up. But Banner, how do you feel about the way that this episode put a bow on the season, possibly the series? I know we're getting a movie, but this might be the last actual episode of The Mandalorian we get.
Liked it, almost loved it. Both for the episode and the season. As far as this episode goes, a lot of action, which I was definitely not mad about. The CGI was incredible. The hand-to-hand combat was on point. Some of the best work we've seen in a long time. And they left it open to where I can see more adventures, and I'm not done with the Dins yet, if you will.
I will.
See what I did there?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. And then another thread that I wouldn't mind them pulling is rebuilding Mandalore, them keeping Mandalore. Disappointed we didn't see Thrawn or Ahsoka. I was really hoping that we would, but overall, it was a great way to sum up a overarching story from where we first met Din and Grogu in the first season.
Yep. Nate, how about you?
Yeah, this was a very, very great way to wrap up everything. And to Banner's point, we talked about this off pod texting, but our expectations get so high. We have these crazy theories that we kind of
we're psychos.
Set ourselves up for failure. And yeah, we didn't have like that big like cameo like they did in the season 2. But even without that, it was a very solid episode. It had a lot in it. There was a very cool overarching theme in this season that I noticed in the last one of like sacrifice, which was kind of cool. So obviously, like Paz Vizsla sacrificing himself, Axe Woves potentially sacrificing himself, going off alone on the ship, sacrificing the ship. Were
you guys getting like major Captain America: The First Avenger vibes when Cap has to crash into?
Oh yeah,
yes,
the whole ship crashing down. But then Din sacrifice himself for Grogu and vice versa, just going back and forth, and it was a cool way to.
Everybody's willing to die, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, Yeah, for the greater good. It was kind of just one thing that in that last episode I found where it's like, oh, there's a lot of this going on, the self-sacrifice for the greater good and everything. But yeah, wrapping it up at the end, then having a great moment with Grogu and adopting him and making it official in the Baths of Mandalore. What is it? The waters of Mandalore.
I think it's the waters. Maybe.
Yeah, you bathe in the waters of Mandalore.
There we go. We're gonna get there as a team some way. But yeah, and I think someone mentioned just a second ago, or maybe it was off pod. There wasn't too much acting in this episode, but the action, and this goes back to the episode before. Like the CGI on the shit was insanely good.
Yeah,
like them flying in a group of Mandos. I don't know why
that felt so real.
Keeps reminding me of like Fireflies because they've got like the jetpacks on the back and they're lighting up. But like them flying around shooting, the cool way that it's obviously not a camera on Bo-Katan's back, but like her flying and there's like a camera like
it's like
visual like right behind.
Yeah, it looks like a GoPro basically.
Yeah, it's like the way they do the shit. And then I started rewatching it a little bit with Miss Thurman right before the pod, and you can still see them flying through the air in the background when Din and Moff Gideon are fighting, and so it's like close up fighting hand to hand, and then you like look in the background, and you see like these little people flying around and fight. I mean, the editing and like the CGI work on this is like next level, and it's so insane.
And I'm trying to think, maybe there's a scene in Iron Man 3 where Tony has to rescue people that are falling from a plane, but he's not fighting anyone. The fact that they were having hand-to-hand combat with these like dark troopers while on jetpacks and in the air is a pretty unique set piece. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that.
I mean, they're basically like sword fighting or fighting while they're floating.
Yeah,
gravity wasn't a thing, and so it was just a different way to fight.
Yeah. The last thing. Hold on, I had something else on here. Crap, where'd it go?
I can jump with one.
Go ahead. Horns. Yeah.
One thing that I really appreciated with the CGI and the fight choreography, and I don't normally notice stuff like this, but I could definitely tell, and this is obviously a big advantage to having Dave Filoni be showrunner for this when he did Clone Wars. But Bo-Katan in the Clone Wars has a very distinct fighting style. She's like very low to the ground. She's very agile. She almost looks like a praying mantis, and they did an awesome job of emulating that and basically recapturing it for the purpose of live action. Because when she was wielding the dark saber and then also doing a lot of the combat in the air, I was like, that looks exactly like the way she fights in Clone Wars, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. The last thing I had was we finally got the answer of like the overarching theme of like the past two seasons and into this third season. Like, what are they cloning? It was going to be clones of Moff Gideon, and he was trying to get the midichlorian levels up in them so he could use the Force in his clones. So,
and that's why they wanted Yoda, right?
Yes, that was one of the cool big wrap ups of the series.
And they did a good job of dancing around the Skywalker saga. I mean, I don't think there was anything in here that would potentially mess up the sequel trilogy worse than it already is.
No,
in Theories and Questions, I think they actually not a lot, but they did strengthen it a little bit. I got to be honest, when Nate brought that up about the because it was really just kind of like a one-off line in this, like Gideon's plan originally with the DNA of Grogu and the clones. That narrative was basically the plot point in season 1, but I've become so much more interested with like the Mandalore storyline and then everything that Din was dealing with in season 2 that I don't want to say forgot about that, but I was totally satisfied with just basically like one sentence from Moff Gideon to explain it. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how I was the same way, how we were satisfied and accepting of just kind of a throwaway 30-second scene, a minute scene of him and Grogu in there and then destroying the clones basically, and then Moff Gideon kind of explaining what was going on. We're like, okay, there's bigger things. There's bigger themes that we're more concerned about. So we've got that resolved. We can move on.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, or we're ready to move on to best scene?
That's it for me.
Do the scenes.
All right. I mean, this is always we're like fucking dogs fighting over a ham hock when there's so many good action set pieces. But one that I really liked, and I know there's probably better action set pieces in terms of like choreography and visuals in this one, but I was cracking up as I was watching this morning, and it's the Grogu fight scene where he gets basically sliced out of IG-12, and he ends up doing like American Ninja Warrior on the ceiling of that room while the Dark Troopers are attacking him. And here's why. I know that it's kind of a gaffe and you laugh about it, but the emotion that I even felt in that scene where Din sees Grogu fighting, are they the Imperial Guard? Is that what the red guys are?
When I was watching this, I was like, fuck, I've seen these guys like 5, 6, 7 times now in movies and TV shows. Like, I can't remember what they're called. Yeah. And I didn't look it up.
Banner, I think that's right? That's the two that
Kylo
and Rey fight. Yeah. So when they
but also Ace Wolf sounded right last week. So I don't know if my opinion really has the weight that it used to carry.
He's always going to be Ace Wolf to me. His friends call him Ace Wolf. But when they like isolated Grogu and he got away, I mean, he's not going to die, but I felt Din's emotion. I was like, fuck no, that's like, I love him. Like, I need to get in there and help him out. And it really made like, in the scene, I was even thinking what Din was. I was like, dude, fuck Moff Gideon. We need to help go save Grogu. So that emotionally connected with me. And then again, the gaff of Grogu like running along the like monkey bars on the top of the ceiling and they're like slicing them up was fucking hilarious to me.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Nate, how about you?
Sorry. I won't spend much time on it because I talked about it a lot in story and plot, but I mean, when the Mando's flying, they get the reinforcements and they come out. I mean, that was next level for me. You can't get any better than that. The way it was shot, these days it's tough to do like new ways of like shooting like CGI shit. Like it's okay, computer generated. We're
desensitized to it. Basically.
Yeah, we're at a very peak level of getting CGI, green screen, and all this shit. But like they keep like innovating with this shit, and especially Star Wars, and like you've seen like the behind the scenes stuff of them shooting, especially season 2 of Mandalorian and how they did all that and the de-aging. Like they just keep taking it next level, and they stepped it up again. I didn't think they could these last 2 episodes, especially. And that one was kind of extended scene. It took up probably 10 or 15 minutes. They were jumping back and forth between different fights. But yeah, the flying of the Mandos fighting the Dark Troopers, that was the one that stood out for me.
Yeah, that was sick. 2 really quick things I want to say about that. Sorry, Banner, then I'll let you go. One comment and one question. My question first off is, I'm assuming a lot of this was filmed in the volume that Disney has. Are we almost at the point where we don't even consider that like it's almost like a practical effect now, right? Because it basically looks like it creates the environment as opposed to adding it in post. Because I'm assuming that Gideon's like underground fortress was all on the volume, and it looked great.
I assume, yeah.
Yeah, I bet so.
The other comment that I wanted to add about that scene where Axe Woves, aka Ace Wolf, flies up basically into like low orbit, which I didn't really realize that they could do with their jetpacks and their helmets. But I guess it makes sense. When he flies into the ship though, and he's warning the other Mandalorian, basically it was like perfect timing. He was like, I can't really fucking talk, but you need to get out like immediately and get down to Earth, and I'm gonna pretend like we don't know their plan while I crash the cruiser. Did you guys think for a second, and maybe it's the way that like one of the Mandalorians lingered from Bo-Katan's old clan, that one of them was going to be a double agent for Moff Gideon?
Oh, wow, I didn't even notice that.
I didn't notice that, no.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the guy who was like piloting the ship. He was just kind of like fucking hanging out too long.
Huh.
And I was like, what's this guy going to do? And then nothing happened. But I think that was part of the fun of this episode, was like there was a few really minor, unexpected turns. Like the fact that they actually avoided the enemy onslaught, or like the what's the word I'm looking for?
And stuff.
They
avoided a space battle.
Right. Like I always think of Return of the Jedi, where like they're flying into a trap and they actually get fucked up basically by the Empire. I thought that was going to happen here, but the good guys actually, for once in the Star Wars universe, at the beginning of the battle, actually had a leg up on the antagonist, which is kind of a role reversal. Normally we play from behind. Our pitcher gives up 4 runs early, and we're playing small ball the rest of the way.
They got to be punched in the face first.
It's true.
You got to give them one win every once in a while.
Yeah. All right, Banner, what was your favorite scene?
Mine, this was maybe in the opening scene, or it was one of the early scenes, but that is when Din escapes from the 2 Dark Troopers. Great hand-to-hand combat. Really cool. I mean, very little guns were used, and so all 3 of them were using their gadgets and stuff, which was just beautifully done.
Can you remind me
some
again?
Of the flamethrower, you got the grappling hook.
Lots of good hand-to-hand fighting in this, which is interesting because with the Beskar, it's like very difficult to get a glancing blow in on anyone.
Yeah, you got to get like below the neck or like in between the armor. It's tough.
Even the flamethrower, I don't think was doing much. Like
if you have the Beskar all over you, like you can just kind of huddle and it shields you.
I would assume you have some sort of underlayer as well, right?
Like a flame retardant layer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like one of those like golf or fishing shirts.
Or like F1 racers or like NASCAR drivers, you see like them come out and they have like the little hood on over.
That's a cool look.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Or you guys ready to move on to theories and questions?
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
All right. Last part of the show, theories and questions. This is always interesting at the end of a season, excuse me, /series. But in this case, as opposed to doing like overall thoughts, we actually have future Star Wars properties in Ahsoka, the Mandalorian movie. I'm sure there'll be some other things announced in the next year or so that will potentially pick up these storylines, or we'll at least get to see the effects of this show play out. So, Banner, we'll let you go first. What do you want to start with? A theory or a question, or maybe a little bit of both combined?
I will start with a half-assed theory. So this is going to tie indirectly to Ahsoka. Somehow Sabine Wren is going to end up back on Mandalore, obviously with the Mandalorian people, and she has a very close relationship with Ezra. Somehow Ahsoka is going to have a lead on where Ezra is or how to find Ezra, and she's going to recruit Sabine Wren from Mandalore. All while Thrawn comes back, and he may be attempting to or does destroy Mandalore as well. And that's what brings her back into the fray, if you will.
So you're predicting an Ahsoka series that either takes place largely on Mandalore or involves protecting Mandalore from Thrawn.
Yeah. I think it's more the protecting Mandalore from Thrawn.
So it's almost like what they did with Book of Boba Fett, but actually done well and not as like a desperate attempt to save a series.
I know. I keep forgetting that there was an entire Grogu Luke episode in Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to remember, like, wait a minute. That wasn't the season 2 finale, but it wasn't in season 3. It's really fucking with my head.
I know. That has created a lot of problems.
Yeah, Mando 2.5.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'm fine with that. I love that episode. But, like, the fact that it wasn't in this show, like, there's some people out there, lots of people that I'm sure were like, well, I don't really know who Boba Fett is, so I'm not going to watch that one. I'll just wait for Mandalorian next season. And then you're like, wait, what the fuck happened from the last time I watched the show? It's wild.
Yeah.
I like that, Banner. Nate, what do you got?
I mean, yeah, I just have a lot of questions that kind of lead into theories. Will we see Grogu again? I know we have a potential movie. Is the movie like for sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is,
okay.
And I believe Filoni is directing it.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I think I heard that too.
So we'll obviously see him. So do we think we'll see him in Ahsoka, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good. I almost feel like if they're doing the movie, they kind of need to at least keep Din and Grogu's storyline separate from the Ahsoka show.
Man, I don't know. So obviously at the end of this episode, they're kind of melding into saying, oh, you can stay here on Navarro in between missions, obviously. So I could see them
you got the Airbnb.
Jumping in for like a mission or maybe even a larger part of Ahsoka. I don't know if they want to dilute it that way, but like trying to track down Grand Admiral Thrawn or something like that. But I could see that happening, and obviously want it to happen. So,
yeah, because I guess you could do I mean, we'll just call it the Mando movie for now until we know what the title is. But I guess you could do it either he does something for the New Republic, and it could be high stakes and tied into the sequel trilogy, or you could do if Thrawn and Mandalore doesn't end up being a part of the Ahsoka series, that could be like they could be them defending Mandalore from someone, maybe even Thrawn in the movie.
Yeah,
cool. Yeah,
I like that.
So I had a question that you guys will probably be able to answer because you're more well versed in Clone Wars than me, and I have not seen Rebels if this takes place. But with the Darksaber being destroyed, what does that mean for Mandalore, if anything?
No idea.
Yeah, same. But I would assume, I mean, not much. You can still have a leader without it.
But I wonder if there's nothing that says like, oh, the prophecy, we're fucked, like it's over. Because it didn't really, like, it was a high stakes moment, scored incredibly well, but I didn't really get the sense, especially afterwards when the armor was just like, you know, bathing people in the waters, that it was like, man, we are fucked because that thing got ruined.
Yeah, I felt like it almost wasn't a big deal that it got, like, they didn't make a big deal out of the fact that it was destroyed.
It was kind of weird how big of a plot point it's played in the past 2 seasons and up until now. And then I was destroyed, and I kind of felt the same way. I was like, oh, that sucks. But it kind of ties into making sense as far as how it doesn't show up in any other later installments of Star Wars. So I was like, okay, they wrote it off that way. So
I could almost see, especially for Bo-Katan, it being like a relief. It's like, thank God, dude. I've been fucking like having to chase this thing basically my whole life. Yeah. Other people have had it. It's been just a pain in my ass. Now it's gone. We don't have to worry about it. It's like if you have a car that always breaks down, it's like just fucking finally just say that it's totaled. Insurance. I won't deal with it anymore.
Yeah, just get it out of here. I don't want it anymore.
I have one other theory, and it kind of ties into banners, but this is some connective tissue that I think would be interesting to do between this and the sequel trilogy. So the First Order, I don't know if this is ever explicitly said in the sequel trilogy, but is it an offshoot of the Empire? Like, is it basically people who were either sympathizers of the Empire or actually like descendants or possibly officers there? Or do they just basically take the same sort of fascist idea and try and make a new government from it?
I mean, from what we've seen in this, and I think you kind of pick up on like uniform similarities and all that. Yeah, I think it is some of the fallout, people who weren't killed or captured from the Empire that are creating this new faction. That's been my idea behind it.
So it's like the remix of the Empire. Okay.
I think so.
Well, tying into that, I could definitely see, because obviously we know Snoke is, you know, the big bad for, you know, the 2/3 of the sequel trilogy. I could see Thrawn potentially picking up the cloning technology and basically using that to sort of reestablish himself in Moff Gideon's demise as the person who should lead the First Order going forward. Like, I've taken up this project. It has incredible potential as far as like being weaponized, and I think it's something that could get us back on top in the galaxy. And that could sort of be what he either rules by fear with that, or the promise that this is like our meal ticket. This is our way to get back on top.
Yeah,
I could totally see that. And then, I mean, you could have almost Thrawn is playing puppet master to one of these clones, and then it turns on him, aka now you have Snoke.
Definitely. And also that could tie into Ahsoka's vested interest. I don't know, and I guess don't spoil it for me because I am going to go watch it, but how Thrawn's arc in Rebels ends, but maybe like with the Jedi, you know, their importance, or I guess not involvement because they didn't knowingly participate in it, but the fact that midichlorians were used as part of the cloning process could be part of why she's interested in stopping it.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about this since Thrawn has been kind of a plot point for some of the newer installments, and obviously with Ahsoka, it's rumored that, well, he's going to be in it. They showed the back of his head, so I'm hoping they have an actor for him. Right. But I've been kind of dancing around how I want to say this, though, but like at the end of Rebels, where Thrawn is or where Thrawn goes is very ambiguous. So even people who have seen Rebels, like, I don't know.
There's no expectation.
No, but it has been nice that through season 2 of Mandalore, when Ahsoka showed up or whenever it was, there's been like promise of like seeking out Thrawn, so you know he's out there somewhere and that they're looking for him. So I'll leave it at that.
Banner, was Thrawn a character who was part of Star Wars Legends books? And because I know there was a few characters that they've taken they liked so much they actually made them canon after they decided all those books weren't part of the Star Wars universe.
I don't think so. I think he was always canon.
Okay.
There are some very good books. I believe it's a trilogy of Thrawn books.
And they are canon, those ones?
I believe they are.
Okay, I need to check
Because
those out.
if I remember correctly, they are. He's still with the Empire. Like the Empire hasn't fallen yet.
Interesting. All right. That's all I had. How about you guys?
No. I'm sorry. It's before Rebels. I had my timeline.
Okay. So which is an interesting time because the Empire is basically forming or at its most powerful.
Yeah, it's more. I think they start more at the beginning of the Empire and roll through when we see him in Rebels.
Got it. All right,
Nice.
I'm all out. What else do you guys have?
That's about it.
I've
last
got-
thing.
Oh, go ahead.
I have one last thing, and it's just pertinent to the last episode, which was called "The Return." I just want to pick your guys' brains on what you thought what the return meant for this last episode. A couple different things.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw that in the beginning, I was like, "Fuck, who are they bringing back?
Who's returning?"
Right, and so
I immediately thought Thrawn.
I thought it was Han Solo at first.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, I don't.
Unfortunately, it did not play out that way.
That's a good question. I do a bad job of like connecting episodes of like episode titles of shows to like actual themes or ideas that happen in the episode. I guess maybe it's the Mandalorians to Mandalore. I don't know because Gideon's already showed back up.
I think that's got to be the main one. At the end, they light the forge again. They kind of preface a little bit in the middle of the episode whenever they escape to like their kind of safe haven. The Mandalorians that were there have been growing vegetation, been growing crops and all that kind of stuff. So they're kind of planting the seeds of them returning there. But I mean, Mando and Grogu returned to Navarro and they're making that their home. So I kind of thought there were a couple different correlations that could have connected. But just want to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Mando seems like the type of guy that is just like not comfortable settling down anywhere.
No.
Because he basically has 2 homes now on Navarro and Mandalore. And he's like, I just kind of want to be like a traveling salesman for the New Republic.
Yeah. Can me and Grogu go on the road?
Exactly. Grogu with a trucker hat, eating beef jerky in the passenger seat.
Ooh,
controlling the music, obviously.
Not navigating, though.
No. He isn't fucking up from his asshole. He has no idea.
I've got an idea for the movie.
Yeah, go for it, Banner.
So I think it would be cool to see an older Grogu, one that can maybe talk, and obviously older Din Djarin, and it's almost where the student is surpassing the teacher.
So Din is like not old age, but he's maybe like 50.
Yeah, he's on the back 9. He's starting to lose a step, and Grogu's kind of saving his ass all the time. And maybe,
did you think Grogu was going to talk this episode? I had a feeling he might.
It wouldn't have surprised me.
Okay. I'm sorry, I cut you off. So Din on the back 9, Grogu is kind of like entering his prime, basically.
Yes. He's really honed his skills as a Mandalorian fighter, as well as how he uses the Force to his advantage. So obviously, I think that would end with maybe both of them dying, which would explain why they're not in the sequel trilogy.
That's sad, but it would make sense.
I was going to say, would this timeline, because Kylo Ren is not quite yet born when this series is taking place.
I think he is born.
He is?
I think we've done the math before and like him, because I've done it like with him and Rey. I think at this time him and Rey are like 5 or something.
See, because when Luke shows up, he like looks like he just got off the Star Destroyer in Return of the Jedi.
And whenever I like dived in and like try to figure out how old they are, I've had to like pull up the fucking timelines of Star Wars, which is a deep dive.
The fact that I know BBY is before Battle of Yavin shows you why I've never seen a woman naked in real life.
But if I remember correctly, and to my best recollection, I think like him and Rey are born. If I don't know their actual ages, but they're young. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at what age does Kylo Ren go to train with Luke as a child?
I'm trying to think back to like
did
you have
do
that
they
little,
ever say?
You have that little flashback where
in the flashbacks, I feel like he's like 14, but I can't tell
Okay.
like how long he had been there. He'd probably been there for a few years when shit got wild.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just basing all that off of when he shows up in Mando. He looked pretty much exactly the same as he did in Jedi.
Yeah.
Was he building the temple that Kylo destroys?
Yeah.
Because remember he had all those little robots?
Mm-hmm.
Was it on the planet in season 2 that Ahsoka and Grogu were at with him?
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Wait, was that season 2 or was that Boba
That was
Fett?
Boba Fett. That was
See?
Boba Fett.
Fuck me.
See?
That's what
I get
fucked us
so
up.
fucked up.
It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2.5.
There was someone at home who was like, "Look, I could deal with Ace Wolves, but the not knowing what is in Book of Boba Fett. That's now I'm unsubscribing."
Sorry, Boba Fett and a half. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Boba Fett and a half. And a half shell.
And a half shell. Turtle power.
All right, we are losing it. Anything else?
No.
Banner, I like that idea though. I think like time jumping with those two would be awesome to see like how their relationship has changed over like 2 decades.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll really feel that father-son, almost like a Batman Nightwing relationship.
Yeah, and they could even play Grogu like a teenage Groot, like in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
A little angsty.
Be hilarious.
I could get down on that.
I do wonder, does he talk? I don't know the exact English verbiage for this, but like in the way that Yoda does, where he like inverts his sentence, where like the preposition will come sometimes before. Like into the cave we go.
Dialect is the right word.
Yeah.
Which is same sentence structure, I guess.
Sure. Be interesting.
I've always just called it talking like Yoda.
Yeah, that's the proper way to do it.
I mean, I think that is universally accepted. Yeah.
Anyone has a problem with that, come see me.
Yeah, you can fuck right off.
Off you can fuck.
Off, thank you.
All right, before we wrap up, guys, season 3 of The Mandalorian, this might be the last ever episode we get to review for the show. Not to get all vitamin C and graduation emotional on you, but overall thoughts, either on this or I guess the series in general. Nate?
It's fantastic. It was great. It was a nice little fill in to a kind of dark spot in the Star Wars canon. And it just filled in so well. I mean, you got so much more insight into Bo-Katan and some other Mandalorian lore that you had missed. If you'd watched Clone Wars, then you got a little more insight into that. So it was fun seeing that. It was fantastic. I love what they're doing with this. I
agree. Banner?
Yeah, this was a blast. All 3 seasons, A+. Nah, maybe not A+. All A's. Book of Boba Fett, you get a B because of Mando. But overall, I think it was a very fun story. It was almost refreshing because we're in the Star Wars universe, but we don't have. It's not the Rebels and the Empire or the New Republic. It's something that we haven't seen before. It's like Cowboys. It's a Western.
And it's a huge galaxy, so to get to explore other parts of it is fun and I think important also.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say, 24 episodes in this show across 3 seasons, and there's only 2 that I can come up with off the top of my head that I did not enjoy. There was the Ice Planets episode in season 1, and we all know almost don't even want to speak it, but the Lizzo and Grogu playing lawn darts episode this season. Aside from that, I think I've liked / very much loved every single episode and every week getting to watch this show.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's been great. The only thing that the ice episode gave us was God, I can't remember his name, but the X-wing fighter. That's true. Later helps us, but that was a small thing that later gave.
You very easily could have just.
Oh, you could
have the second encounter, his first encounter.
Yeah, that thing or that woman laying eggs and giving birth.
The frog people.
Yeah, that was just a weird. And that was so early in the show. It's like if you go on a second date with a chick and she does something fucking crazy, bites the waiter. You're like, I don't know if this is gonna last. And 4 years later, you're like, we're getting married.
Yay!
I love her. Like that was just that one. I don't know. She was just drunk that one night. She's been drunk a lot, but that was an exception.
Captain Carson Teva, that was the guy.
Ah, yes. Also, real quick, did you notice? I couldn't unnotice it because he had his fucking cowboy hat on, and I'm saying that because it's like his Ryan Johnson impression. He's way better than Ryan Johnson. But Dave Filoni was an extra at the scene at the end where he goes into the bar. Mando does, and they find the IG-11 head.
Funny enough, I think he was in 2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago.
Oh, really?
When they were in the bar, I forgot to mention that. But yeah, I
did he have the hat on?
I think so. I just remember watching like some YouTube video and like, oh, Dave Filoni was in the scene. So I guess he was like, hey, I want to be in the bar again.
With the hat on, it almost felt like Dave. Why don't you get back in the scene again? He's like, okay, but I'm not taking off my hat. Like I might as well have been like
it's a
like
part
a Philadelphia
of
Flyers hat. It's like, what? That's not even. You can't wear that.
Is that canon? I don't know.
Go Flyers.
Yeah.
Are the Flyers in the Star Wars universe?
They are
now. They are.
Well, they're not in the playoffs.
Got him.
All right, for the mad scientist Brian Banner and the American hero Nate Thurman, I'm the mayor Jeff Hornacek. We are the Bro Force Squad podcast coming to you from a galaxy far, far away. Thank you so much for checking us out for all of our Mandalorian reviews. Please follow us on Twitter at Bro Force Squad. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, pretty much anywhere you find podcast, the audio versions. If you type in Bro Force Squad as 3 separate words. We're also on Letterboxd. Type in those same 3 words and check out our website, broforcesquad.com. Till next time, R5, open the shields, please.
So I can go get this red velvet cheesecake slice.
It's the one under the little glass cylinder thing. Always looks good. But they never serve you that one. It's like display only.
Yeah, because it's so perfect. They have like some preservative sprinkled on it or something that you're not supposed to eat.
You poison me to death.
I don't care if it tastes good. Fuck it.